You're just on
Good
mute,
afternoon,
Pam.
everyone, and welcome to today's Power Hour. I can see there's still some people joining, so we'll just give it a few more moments. And while you're still joining, we'll just run through some housekeeping, please. Brill. So, as always, this session is being recorded, and we'll share the recording and the slides with you after the event. If you have any questions at all at any time during the Power Hour, just pop them into the chat and we'll try and answer as many questions as possible at the end. Now, we can't answer any specific questions about a trust, but if you have anything specific you would like to know about, you can email the generic email contact address, which we'll pop into the chat as well for you. So we might not publish similar questions, so if you see a question that resonates with you, then just use the upvote icon, the upvote to like that question. And at the end of the survey, there'll be tell us how we did, and we'll be asking for your feedback as always. Now, in a slight change, so just before we get started to the agenda, we need some help from you, please. Okay, so our colleagues in HMRC would like to run a Power Hour. We ran a couple previously for VAT and they were very well attended. So they would like to know if any of the following topics would be of interest. So you can either click on the link to the survey, we'll also pop the link into the chat, but if you could just go through and just click on anything that you think you would like some help with, then HMRC will have a look at the results at the end, and we'll potentially run a Power Hour in March. So there's a number of things there that might be, you may need some guidance with. Benefits in kind, so any of the expenses, home to office expenses that might be applicable for your employees, hybrid working, or if you need any help on anything with IR35 status, if you employ, your trust employs consultants, or if you have off-payroll working arrangements, for example, for members of the senior team. The other topics are the apprenticeship levy, if that's something that you would like to know a bit more about, that's a possibility. Some trusts might have to run the construction industry scheme, or the P11D. If you've got any queries about P11D payrolling expenses, and I believe there's going to be some change to that coming up, but HMRC will tell us more about that. Or if there's nothing in there that you recognise and you've got something else that you would like to know more about, then just pop that into the feedback form. Okay. I think we're ready now, and we can hand over to Chris and Amy. I think it's Amy first, who's going to be taking you through today's presentation on the accounts return. Thank you. Amy?
Hello, everyone. So today we'll be talking about the Academies Accounts Return, known as the AR. And this session will be covering an overview of the accounts return, the process for closed trusts, the benchmarking section, and how to get your accounts return approved and submitted. We'll also talk about some new features on the form, and we'll do some frequently asked questions at the end of the session as well. Okay, so what is the accounts return and why do we collect the data? Well, it's an online form that collects financial data from over 2,500 Academy trusts, and this year the deadline for submission is the 28th of January. The data we collect through the accounts return helps to produce the sector annual report and accounts, otherwise known as the SARA, for Academy trusts, and that is a mandatory return produced in line with IFRS standards. The data we collect in the report helps the department to understand the financial health of the Academy sector, and it looks into more specific areas such as executive pay and related party transactions in more detail. Next slide, please. The accounts return is split into the following sections. We've got the SOFA, the balance sheet assets, land and buildings, balance sheet liabilities, balance sheet funds and other disclosures, and benchmarking. There is also the transfers and conversions section, which is populated if your academy schools have joined or left the trust in the period. And next slide, please. And the AR and the financial statements are very similar, but they do have a key difference in that the AR requires additional information or further detailed breakdowns for certain items. So as we said before, the data in the AR helps to produce the SARA, and this is prepared according to IFRS standards, whereas financial statements are prepared according to the Charity's Statement of Recommended Practice under FRS 102. And because they use the different reporting frameworks, there are some areas where the accounts return requires additional information or a bit more detail. So we require, for staff costs, we require a detailed breakdown. So wages and salaries are split into 3 further categories of teachers, leadership and administration and support. For staff numbers, permanent and temporary staff numbers should be full-time equivalent, FTE figures, which differs from the requirement in financial statements, which requires average headcount, so with an optional FTE disclosure if preferred. It includes a granular breakdown of grants into revenue and capital, and they're broken down into categories such as DFE and ESFA, DFE group and other, and then broken down further into more detailed rows within the tables. And the final example is the detail we require for land and buildings. So we collect additional land and building data because the method for recognising land and buildings in the SARA is different from in the local accounts. There's also the benchmarking section, which is additional to financial statements. Okay, next slide, please. So next we'll cover the process for closed trusts. So the first stage when a trust closes is the receipt of a commission email, and this details what submissions are required and the deadlines for receipt. And you can just see an example of the type of content you can expect. Next slide, please. And the second step depends on the type of closure. And we have 2 types of closure. So those that close on the last day of the academic period, which for this year's AR would be the 31st of August 2024, or trusts that have closed on any other day within the academic year. So for this year, it will be the 1st of September 2023 to the 30th of August 2024. Next slide, please. For closures on the last day of the period, we require 2 returns from the trust. So there's a full 23-24 AR that's completed on the online form as normal, and a 1-day AR. And that's a standalone AR that identifies balances being transferred to the receiving trust. Now, the online AR should be submitted by the usual deadline of the 28th of January, and the 1-day AR is due by the 30th of January, and it's submitted through the Excel workbook. There is more guidance on how to complete this on the workbook on the Guidance 1-day AR tab. Next slide, thank you. For trust closing within any other point in the year, they complete a closing AR, and as the form is live, this must be submitted online. Just a note to say that the auditors must sign off the closing AR and it must reflect all the transferring and closing balances of the trust. Okay, so now moving on to benchmarking. Just to cover what the benchmarking data is used for. So schools' financial benchmarking data is published, and that helps comparison from one trust to another. So the data provider builds a database information on the spending of academy trusts. It helps to inform the financial benchmarking self-assessment tool, and it enables trusts to compare their information with other trusts. So this can be based on general SEN, performance and workforce characteristics. Next slide, please. Now, the financial benchmarking and insight tools is the principal place for trusts to examine their financial data and to benchmark their spending. And the tool can be used by anyone working in a role relating to resource management within a trust. And just a few ideas on how it can be used. So to benchmark a trust spending against other trusts, identify areas for improvement and share best practice, producing workforce deployment plans with the curriculum and financial planning tool, access to commercial resources and guidance and frameworks, and to build reports to share analysis with stakeholders of the trust. So you can see we've provided some screenshots here just to show what the tool looks like, what you can expect to see, and you can access this tool by searching for Schools Financial Benchmarking and Insights on gov.uk. Next slide, please. This graphic shows the timeline for benchmarking data, and the data for the AR 23-24 will be available on the benchmarking website in March. If you want to have a look at the site before then, you'll be able to see the 22-23 data. It's really important to get the data within the benchmarking correct before submission, as we can't rectify errors within the published information. And it does affect the reliability of the data, so it is in the sector's interest to record it correctly and get the best use of that tool. Next slide, please. The following slides are examples of how the benchmarking section is displayed in the accounts return. So in this slide, you can see a list of academies within the trust in the Academies dashboard, and it's populated from standing data. If you click on an academy, it'll bring up the benchmarking fields for completion, and it lists all the academies within a trust. If you've got a lot of academies, it's really useful for navigating between them if you're amending figures within that section. Next slide, please. And this slide, you can see a selection of tables recording income and expenditure for a SAT or at academy level for a MAT. And it's really important to allocate costs to individual academies, and this just ensures data is accurate and means that the benchmarking tools are fit for purpose. Next slide, please. And to touch on the data we require for benchmarking, so we cover data on revenue, income and expenditure at central and academy level. So SATs need to complete this at an academy level, and MATs would need to complete this at central and academy level. And automation can save a lot of time for MATs because the central revenue figures are auto-populated. Okay, next slide, please. And now we'll look at the approval and submission process for the accounts return. Now, the first step is to make sure that the relevant parties have access to the form. So this is in the overview section of the form in the external auditor table. It's really important to make sure the details you've entered are correct, so your accounts return, trust approver and external auditor approver have access to the AR form, and it's a good idea to check this at the beginning of the process rather than at the end. The last thing that you want is to reach submission stage, especially if you're quite close to deadline, and then realise that your accounts return, trust approver or external auditor don't have access, because you can't submit until that's sorted out. So just check that at the beginning of the process. Okay, next slide, please. The next stage is to check all the tables available have been filled in and all the validations have been cleared. So it might sound quite obvious, but it is easy to miss something on the form. You just need to make sure you expand all the headers within the Academies Accounts Return index page and just check that over. To do that, if you select Open All, that you can see in the top right-hand corner of the screenshot on the index page, and just check through the available tables and ensure a green completed box is displayed next to them. You don't want to see any grey not started box, yellow in progress boxes, or any red boxes. If you do have any in progress boxes and you think you've completed the information, it's worth just revisiting the page and marking as complete, and hopefully that should resolve that issue. And if there are any red error boxes, it means you've not cleared all the validations within the table. So the approval and submission section of the accounts return won't be available until those validations have been cleared. Okay, next slide, please. So this one, this is the submission, and there's 3 stages to this one. So the first one is prepare a declaration, and this is where the AR preparer confirms they've completed the AR accurately. Once that's complete, the AR will become read-only for the preparer. This isn't mandatory, so if you don't want to include a preparer declaration within your accounts return, you can select no to question 29 on the questionnaire table in the overview section. The next step is Academy Trust Declaration, and this is mandatory and should be completed by a finance officer within the trust. So if the individual is the trust accounting officer, they should select yes under the question, are you accounting officer? And then make sure they agree with the declaration and click the final box to approve the AR. If that person isn't the accounting officer, the form will ask for confirmation that the approver has the authorisation to approve the return. And once that's approved, the accounts return trust approver should inform the external auditor that the trust has approved the AR. This will put the return into a read-only mode for the trust approver at this point. Then we move on to the external auditor. Again, this step is mandatory. So the external auditor approver has to review the data that's been input to the form and ensure it's consistent with the financial statements, that it's been properly extracted from financial records and presented in accordance with the guidance. Now, if they have approved the AR and they want to revoke their approval for any reason, this can be done by ticking the reject option on external auditor declaration page. Okay, next slide, please. And this is the final submission screen. Again, this is a mandatory stage. Once the external auditor approver completes their approval declaration, the submission screen becomes available and they'll be able to submit the return to DFE on behalf of the trust. So once the external auditor approver has approved and submitted the return, no further amendments can be made and the AR form becomes read-only for every user. So any subsequent issues would need to be raised by contacting us on our inquiry service using the online customer help portal. So it's not possible to amend your submitted return. Okay, next slide, please. So we're going to look at some new features in the accounts return for this year. And we've got new fields within the pensions section, and this is our biggest addition to the form this year. We have 4 new fields, and they're regarding pension surplus within balance sheet funds and other disclosures section. So for 2 of the new fields, we've got DBO 061 for current year values and DBO 061 PY for prior year values. These 2 fields are there to enter the value of any increases to the obligations required to bring net pension obligation to nil. So this is used as a balancing figure. You would have inputted these values into DBO 070 last year with other elements of actuarial gain or loss, but now this field's been provided to include the surplus element as well. The other 2 fields, FVA 051 and ROD 101, they are pre-populated. They're also in balance sheet funds and other disclosures, but they're pre-populated with values from DBO 061, so you don't need to worry about completing those. Okay, next slide, please. Our second change is that this year the accounts return will be accessed through DFE sign-in. So users of the form must have a DFE sign-in account. External auditors should be registered with external groups. Do not add them to the internal organisation. And the external auditor details should be added to the overview section. We've updated the role names this year and the changes reflected across the form and all of our guidance. So what we used to refer to as an internal approver is now referred to as accounts return trust approver. What we used to refer to as an internal preparer is now referred to as accounts return trust preparer. And what we used to refer to as super user is now just an approver. Next slide, please. The collection period for the 23-24 is currently underway. As we said before, the deadline is the 28th of January, and we do have some upcoming Teams calls which you might be interested in attending. And these sessions give you an opportunity to ask questions and raise any queries that you've faced when submitting the accounts return. You can access the dial-in details on our guidance page, which can be found by searching for Academies Accounts Return on gov.uk. Okay, next slide, please. So before we go to queries in the chat, I'm going to go through some frequently asked questions with my colleague, Chris. So first of all, my return is greyed out and I'm unable to access particular accounting sections.
Okay, so when you go onto the accounts return from on the form, you need to make sure that you complete the first 4 sections of the overview table. Now, once you've completed these 4 sections, the rest of the form will be unlocked and then you'll be able to complete all of the relevant sections of the form. Now, if you've already done this and you find that some sections are still greyed out, then please go to the questionnaire tab, which can be found in the overview section, and ensure that you answer all of the questions correctly within there, as answering the questions in this section unlocks different aspects of the form for yourself.
Thank you. Second question, we're a closed trust that are trying to complete the AR. Certain sections of the AR are greyed out for us and there is a validation error.
So when there is any sort of transfer, we don't expect any current assets or liabilities to be left in the closing trust. So we expect to see a nil balance on the balance sheet. Now, this is why the current assets / liability sections are going to be grayed out to yourselves. So as a closed trust is required to complete the transfers and conversion section of the report, the balances of their fixed assets, current assets / liabilities, pensions and other funds. We want to see those being transferred to the receiving trust via the transfer and conversion table that is provided.
Thank you. And how would we download previous year reports?
So this method of downloading the previous year's reports has changed from previous years. So now you log into your online form and you'll be displayed with the Academy Index page. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see an option that says download previous return. So what you want to then do is go and select the format that you prefer, whether that's PDF or Excel, and then it will give you the option to download the 22-23 return or the 21-22 return.
Great, thank you. What should I do if my pre-populated data is incorrect?
Okay, so it's really important that if you haven't checked your data in the overview table of the form, that you do so immediately. We like you to do that right at the beginning because, as we've said previously, if you get to the last day, we need to make amendments. It's going to make it very difficult for you to submit. So please check that at the beginning. If you do notice any incorrect data, then please get in touch with the team as soon as you can, and you send us an email to the standing data email address, which a member of our team will put in the chat now, and try and include the trust, UPIN, the name of the trust, and the details that are wrong and how it should appear correctly. If it's to do with any of the pre-populated financial data within the form that's incorrect, then please contact the financial reporting mailbox. And again, a member of our team will put the email address within the chat for you now.
Thank you. Can we have an extension to the deadline?
Unfortunately, no. Due to our reporting requirements, we're unable to extend any of the deadlines. So please submit your return as soon as you can. And you will potentially, if you haven't submitted, you will receive a chaser email once the deadline has passed. But if you can supply us with a date as to which you believe you'll be intending to submit, then we'll be able to make note of that, and then we can mark this down, and then it'll just delay you from receiving any further emails.
Great, thank you. For the accounts return, who is defined as a leader for staff pay reporting?
So leadership would be the people that have authority and responsibility for planning, directing and controlling the activities of the reporting entity, directly or indirectly, and it also includes the director, whether executive or otherwise, but they have no teaching duties.
Right, great, thank you. So there are frequently asked questions. Just bear with me. Just looking at the questions in the Q&A. You can see we've got some coming through. Chris, can you see any thing on the query log? I'm just having trouble opening that file.
Not at the moment, not anything that needs, we've replied to it via the actual chat itself. So nothing that needs responding to via yourself verbally at the moment.
Okay, great, thank you. If anybody has got any more questions, want to put them in the chat.
Hi, Amy. I'm not sure if you can't see these questions. I'm just going to run through some of them, and yeah, I think some of them, as Chris said, have been responded to. Someone's asking for help if their AAR seems stuck. The auditor rejected it and they've now updated it, but it hasn't been resent to the auditor. Is it best if you have a contact email, and if trusts have any specific questions, would that be the best way for some of these technical queries?
Yeah, if it's anything specific that we need to look at the actual form,
Sure.
if we can either, one of the team will put a link to the help portal
Brill.
or the financial reporting email address. If you just email us with your trust, Academy Trust name, UPIN, and some details of the query, we can actually log into the form and see if we can help you with that.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, someone else is pointing out there's an error in Q19 of the overview. If greyed out, you need to contact the DFE team, and they'll correct this for you. So again, if that's your query, yeah, just use the link that the team are going to publish in the chat. Someone else is having trouble. They've had an email stating that they've not completed the external auditor's detail table, but it seems that that was completed and done months ago. So again, is that one that you would advise just emailing?
Yeah, we did have, is that an email notification, did you say, that they'd
Yes.
received?
Yeah, they had an email.
We did have problems with a list that we sent yesterday. So if you've checked your overview table and the external auditor is in there and you're confident that there is a listing, then that's fine. You shouldn't need to contact us about that.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Thankfully. Hope that resolves Tom's query. And again, someone else having a problem. I think this one's been responded to by the team. They're having problems logging into the AAR via their finance software. Don't know if there's any more questions. Oh, there's one just coming in. If the team's responding to that one, just 1 second. Julie's come back to us to say, please let others know my comment, as it won't let you proceed if you cannot complete the overview or even see your uploaded data. So that was the query from Julie. Let me just go back and see if I can find that. That was about the error in Q19, Amy.
Yeah. So again, I think we would need to look at Julie's form and just see exactly what's going on there. You're correct. It won't, if you don't complete the overview, it won't let you proceed with the rest of the form. So we can have a look at that for you.
Brilliant. Okay. So yeah, I think the overriding thing is do contact the team if you have any queries at all. And you've also got the sessions booked in as well. I can't quite see the chat. I don't know if there's links to the sessions. Do people have to book on those?
No, they are just following a Teams link.
Teams link. Okay.
So the details are on the guidance pages, and there'll be dialing details there that they can follow and join those sessions.
Brilliant. Okay. One other question, should we include head teachers and deputy head teachers in the leadership numbers of teachers?
Oh, now I'm going to ask the team if they
I'm
can.
just looking into that one now, so just bear with.
Oh, thank you. Brilliant. Great. All the work that's going on behind the scenes here. Lots of support. So thank you for that. I think that's answered most of them that I can see. Just running through here. Yeah, I can't see any more. Oh, there's the link for the Teams calls. Thank you for that.
Have we got the link for the customer help portal in there as well? If one of the team can put that in, if it's not already there.
Brilliant. Okay. Right, I think there's still a couple of questions just coming in. I think there might be a couple more, and we've got some time. But yeah, if you do think of something afterwards, then please just contact the team. And we've got the customer help portal link is in there now. Just checking that that link works. It might just be my my system, and because I'm in this call, but I'm not sure that that one works. So maybe if one of the team could just confirm that the link to the customer help portal works, please.
Is that the customer help portal one? That's showing the same on mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, another question. We have a few assistant head teachers on the leadership scale. Should they be included in teacher numbers? So presumably that's the one that your colleagues behind the scenes,
Yes.
that's similar to the previous one.
Yeah,
so see that. Oh, sorry, Chris, go on.
It's okay, don't worry, sorry. I did respond to the previous one, just explaining if they have any sort of teaching duties, then they're not supposed to be classed as leadership. They need to go under teachers. If they're in the leadership role, but they have no teaching duties, then yes, they can be classed as leadership.
Well, thank you, Chris, clarifying that. Really helpful. Okay. Doesn't seem to be any more questions. So I think that just leaves me to say thank you very much for that really interesting presentation. Sorry, I'm just having trouble with my camera. Here we go. So thank you, Amy and Chris. That was really, really interesting, and I'm sure people listening found that really helpful, particularly given the deadline that's looming. Now, I don't know if you were perhaps just a minute or two late joining us at the beginning. I was asking for some help from all of you who are listening today to determine whether you would like to hear from HMRC colleagues again on a number of topics. So my colleagues behind the scenes have posted a link to the form in the chat. If you could please complete that, would be extremely grateful. That will help us determine whether you would like to hear from HMRC on anything to do with any of the topics mentioned there, or as some of you have already asked, for a repeat of VAT. We know that those were well attended. So yeah, if you could take time to complete that one, that would be fantastic. And before we move on to the feedback form, I'll just let you know that coming up next month, you'll hear from the counter fraud team. Really important topic, and how to manage that and stay alert to all the many risks that entails. So again, thank you very much for joining us today. We would love your feedback. Please let us know what you think. How did you find, how helpful did you find today's presentation, and what would you like to hear more of? So again, thank you very much. We'll keep that on the screen just for a couple of minutes and just give you time to fill out. I know that was a lot of us today, but we do appreciate your help with these surveys, and the feedback helps to shape, you know, the topics that you need some help with, or you'd like to know more about. So thank you very much. Thanks again. Bye-bye.